Now, okay, I think we shall start.
Yes, sir.
Last time, in my last class, I had told you to go through Unit 11. It is a very interesting unit, as I have told you, and to study yourself and come up with your doubts. Have you studied?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Please start discussion. Main points. You can go ahead with main points. The topic, as it is marriage and family life, notions of untouchability and changing patterns in Varna and Jati. And here we are to discuss about interpersonal relationship, marriage, changing social pattern, Varna and Jati. So you must have gone through these things, that how in Indian society around after Vedic age, in the early historic phase of Indian society, we see that there were several things that underwent changes. Also, marriage and the gender relationship. A lot of things, a lot of information we get from different sources, that how marriage were consummated, and a number of scriptures, a number of literary sources inform us about the nature and quality of a wife. Similarly, what sort of marriage function or what sort of marriage ceremony was being conducted, that is, how many types of marriages were there, and what were the duties of a wife, what were the duties of a husband. All these things were laid down in Dharma Sutras and Smriti literature. We see that in one of Buddhist literature, it has been mentioned that a husband should treat his wife with respect, courtesy, and faithfulness. And these things, not only in Buddhist literature, but also in Brahmanical literature like Manusmriti and other Smriti, we see that this dictum has been given by the lawgivers or Smriti writer, how a wife or a woman to be treated in the society. And what should be the duty of a wife? It has been also mentioned in the same sutta or Shigolavada sutta. That is, in turn, a wife should be hospitable and chaste, skilled and diligent at work, and should safeguard the property of her husband. It has been mentioned that Buddha, while addressing young women who were about to go to their in-laws' house, to be married, that a wife should arise earlier than husband and is the last one to retire. She should honor, reverence, and respect her husband, as well as to them whom husband also respect and reverence, such as his parents, Shrammanas, Brahmanas, etc. So these are all moral principles or moral dictum that has been narrated in different smriti and religious literature about husband and wife, duty of husband and wife. Similarly, we get another instance of reference that Buddha advising one girl, Sujata, who was from a rich family, and she was some sort of wayward and was not obeying strictly the social order, social law, family rule. So Buddha had given her advice, and in course of these advices, Buddha had enumerated about different type of ladies, different type of wives. And this is very interesting that these types of, while enumerating the type of lady, we come across their nature, like slayer or baddhaka. A woman who is called baddhaka or slayer. Slayer means, murderer, hatyakari. Who is that wife? That wife who is a baddhaka, who is very pitiless, corrupt, neglect the husband, and passes her time with others without caring for her husband. Second type of women or wife is called chori sama, that is robber, thief, who takes the money of her husband and long to impoverish him or make him poor. And then the next type of wife is ayasama, means mistress-like wife, who is lazy, indolent, expensive to maintain, who loves gossips and talks with strident voice. Similarly, these three are harsh and distrustful. But there are other type of women or wife who are more respected, having some sort of values, moral values. And they are mother-like wife, who has been mentioned as Matu Samo or Matru Samo, Ma Bhaliya, who has sympathy for her husband, cares from him. Similarly, there are wives who are like Bhagni Samo, like sister, Boni Badi, and who respect her husband and also gives her advices, suggestion in times of need. Then there are wives who are dasi samo, who work or behave like slave or maid. So in this way, there are different types of wife, what Buddha has enumerated before a girl called Sujata. Then we have different types of marriage system. We got to know that in Kama Sutra by Vaschayana, in Dasakumar Charita, Abhiganam Shakuntalam, in this marriage system, mainly in Indian tradition, there are Hindu tradition, mainly in the Hindu tradition, 8 kind of marriages, remember. Among these 8 kind of marriages, there are 4 kinds which are accepted by the society, and another 4 kind marriages are not accepted by the society. They are generally discarded, but somewhat they were also prevalent. And these are called prasasta and aprasasta. Prasasta means acceptable, aprasasta means not acceptable. For example, Prajapatya, Brahma, Daiva, Arsa. These 4 types of marriages are called prasasta, and they are generally accepted by the society. And in this marriage type and in these forms of marriages, generally boys and girls are not there to select each other. Rather, it is their elders, parents, they were there to select the grooms for their bride or bride for the grooms, vice versa. ପୁଅ ଘର ଯଦି ହେଇଥିବ ଝିଅ ଖୋଜିବେ, ଝିଅ ଘର ହେଇଥିଲେ ପୁଅ ଖୋଜିବେ. And generally in Prajapatya and Brahma type of marriages, there is an intermediary who were responsible for finding a suitable match, and that are called madhyasthi or like that. Today, this sort of marriages are very rampant, and in our Hindu society, these marriages are common. Arso marriages are generally taken place among the rishis and munis. So, these are the marriages which were actually consummated for the attainment of dharma, to begotten the children, to expand their family. The aprasthastha marriages are, which are not acceptable, but they are generally prevalent among the elite, royal class people and very low level people. Low level means those are living in the very low level in the society. This type of marriages were generally consummated, but they are not accepted by the society. And these are Gandharva, Rakshasa, Asura, and Pisacha marriage. In Gandharva marriage, generally boys and girls, bride and grooms, and they select each other and they get married clandestinely. Clandestinely means Gupta Bhavare. Either in front of some gods or goddesses, or before some symbol, or by their mutual consent. There are references to this type of marriages in ancient times. For example, in Abhigyanam Shakuntalam, Kalidasa's Abhigyanam Shakuntala, you must have heard this name of this book, very great book. It has been mentioned that how Shakuntala and Dusmanta got married in the absence of Rishi Kanwa, who used to be the foster father of Shakuntala, and later on Shakuntala was sent to her husband's house, and that is a narration how that husband Dusmanta could not recognize her, and then he came to know about her memory loss regarding this marriage, and then accepted her. Then their son Bharata became the Chakravarti Raja, and from his name this Bhukhanda came to be known as Bharata. These are all story epic, and this is a reference to Gandharva marriage. Gandharva marriage, yes, Buddheshwar.
sir ଆଉଥରେ ଯୋଉ ବିବାହ ଗୁଡାକ ମ୍ୟାରେଜ ଗୁଡା ଆଉଥରେ କହିବେ ଆଠଟା କଣ କଣ?
Prajapatya, Brahma, Arsa, Daiva. Prajapatya, Brahma, Arsa, Daiva. These are 4 types of marriages, comes under Prasastha type.
ଆଉ ଚାରଟା
ହେଲା Aprasastha type. Generally, society does not accept them. They are Gandharva, Rakshasa, Asura, and Paisacha.
Okay, sir.
This type of marriages have been mentioned in both Vaishna's Kama Sutra and in other Dharma Shastras and Smriti literature. As I was discussing that, this type of marriages were generally consummated among the people of either highly aristocratic and royal society, royal family, or in the very lower level people, not among common people in general household. These type of marriages are not accepted, and they are not consummated at all. So as I told you, Gandharva Vibha, Gandharva marriage, with the mutual consent, boys and girls, they get married, either clandestinely or in the presence of their friends, like that. So this sort of marriage we get from this Abhigyanam Sakuntal. There are also several other, for example, in historically, if you'll say, then it is Uddayana, the king of Bascha in 6th century BC. Janapada, I told you, Bascha, Raja Uddayana, and Avanti's Raja Pradut daughter, Vasavadatta. There is a very good book like Sapna Vasavadatta in Sanskrit, written by Bhasa, this great Sanskrit scholar, where it is in mentioned. So we can see that among the royalty, this marriage was generally prevalent. Clandestinely, they were getting married. Then there are also Rakshasa marriage. Rakshasa type of marriage, generally by kidnapping or forcibly taking away the bribe. These sort of marriages are consummated. You know that in Mahabharata, Bhishma, Devabrata, he took away 3 daughters from Magadha, Amba, Ambika, Ambalika, to get them married with his brother.
Sir,
Huh?
sir, can you tell me why Gandharv marriage is not accepted for the common people or general society?
Why it is? Because generally in our society there are certain rules and regulations. And it is parents who generally decide the marriage of their offspring, either bride or groom. So it has been always suggested by the Dharma Shastras and the law that you should marry always with the blessings of your parents. If you are not taking blessings and you are marrying clandestinely, society is not recognizing that marriage. You know, what is your name, Ranjan?
Yes, sir.
Ranjan, why this Bharati, why this Bharati are accompanied with groom? Because groom is going to marry. Then why Bharati?
Sir, I think they are participating with the marriage. They
as
can
what?
bless the bride and groom.
Bless, okay. Bless ପାଇଁ କେବଳ ତାଙ୍କର ଘରର ବଡ ଲୋକ ମୁଖିଆ ମାନେ ଗଲେ ବି ହବ, ବାରାତି ମାନେ ସାହି ପଡିଶା ଗାଁରୁ କିଛି ଲୋକ ଏମିତି କାହିଁ ଯାଆନ୍ତି? ସାହି ଭାଇ ଖାଲି ଖାଇବା ପାଇଁ ପିଇବା ପାଇଁ ଏବଂ ମଜ କରି ଆସିବା ପାଇଁ? नो, ଆଜିକାଲି
This
ସିନା
is a
ସିଚୁଏସନ ଗୁଡା
social
ଏତେ ଖରାପ.
acceptance.
Exactly, social aspect, because that they were the witness to this marriage. Because generally in this form of marriages, girls and boys are not known to each other, remember. And second thing is that when they are not known to each other, two people are becoming united and by a sacred ceremonies, that is called marriage. By conducting havan, yajna, by reciting mantras by the purohitas, and by circumventing the sacred fire, that is जो आमे आजिकाली नौ ने आजिकाली कौन सब नियंती आमे तो कौ सप्तपदी सात थर बुलंतिनी ये पजन अग्निकुंड चारि पाखे, that is called सप्तपदी. And by giving promises, uttering some promises, both girls and grooms. These are the ceremonies conducted in marriage one after another. And these are the onlookers. These Bharatis are the onlookers to this marriage, proof to this marriage that yes, this marriage was consummated between these two individuals. Now she becomes the Bahu of our village, Bahu of this family. He became the Damad or Joy of that family. In that way, a social relationship is established. Okay? Now, this is the general trend of this society. Now, in Gandharva marriage, it is being done clandestinely without the approval of the parents. Then who would recognize them as groom or the son-in-law or daughter-in-law? Groom or bride? Society does not know it. Okay. Then what will be the fate? What will be the fate of the offspring born to this marriage? এই ମ୍ୟାରେଜ ରୁ ଜନ୍ମ ହେଇଥିବା ପିଲାମାନଙ୍କର ଭାଗ୍ୟ କଣ ହବ? ତାଙ୍କୁ ସୋସାଇଟି କୋଉ କୂଳର ବୋଲି ଆଶା କରିବ? ବର୍ଣ୍ଣଶଙ୍କର ବୋଲି ୱାର୍ଡ ଶୁଣିଛ କି ନାହିଁ?
Yes, sir.
কোন কূলর আশা করিব exactly these are the social norms and restriction imposed in the form of these rules so that there would not be any sort of disruption in the social norms in the social activity and the go of the society ଯଦି ସମସ୍ତେ ଭଳିଆ କାମ କରିବା ଆରମ୍ଭ କରିଦେବେ ତାହେଲେ ଅଫସ୍ପ୍ରିଙ୍ଗ ମାନେ କୋଉ କୂଳରେ ହେବେ କିଏ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଆକ୍ସେପ୍ଟ କରିବ ଏବଂ ସେମାନେ କୋଉ ପ୍ରକାର କାମ କରିବେ ଆଗରୁ ତ ସେଭଳିଆ ହଉଥିଲା ନା କାମ କରିବା ଦରକାର ଥିଲା କୋଉ କୂଳର କୋଉ କୂଳ କୌଳିକ ବୃତ୍ତି ସେ ଗ୍ରହଣ କରିବ ବୁଝିହେଲା ଏମିତି ଯୋଉ ଅଭିଜ୍ଞାନ ଶକୁନ୍ତଳମରେ କର୍ଣ୍ଣ ଋଷି ଚାଲି ଯାଇଛନ୍ତି ବାହାଘର ହେଇଛି ଶକୁନ୍ତଳା ତାଙ୍କ କଥା ଭାବୁଛନ୍ତି ଦୁର୍ବାସା ଆସିକି ପହଞ୍ଚୁଛନ୍ତି ଦୁର୍ବାସା ରାଗିଗଲେ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଶକୁନ୍ତଳା ଯେହେତୁ ୱେଲକମ୍ କଲେନି ତାଙ୍କର ସାଦର ନିମନ୍ତ୍ରଣ କଲେନି ତାଙ୍କୁ ଅଭ୍ୟର୍ଥନା କଲେନି ରାଗି କହିଲେ ଯାହା କଥା ଭାବୁଛୁ ସେ ତତେ ଭୁଲିଯାଉ ଏଭଳିଆ ଅଛି ନା ଗପ ଶୁଣିଛ କି ନାଇଁ
yes, sir.
ଶୁଣିଛ କି ନାଇଁ ଅଭିଜ୍ଞାନ ଶକୁନ୍ତଳା ଯେ ପଢିଥିବ ଜାଣିଥିବ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଶକୁନ୍ତଳା ଯାଉଛନ୍ତି କୋଉଠିକି ହସ୍ତିନାପୁର ସେତେବେଳେ ନଦୀ ପାର ହେଲା ବେଳକୁ ଗଙ୍ଗା ନଦୀ ପାର ହେଲା ବେଳକୁ ଯୋଉ ମୁଦ୍ରିକାଟା ଦେଇଥିଲେ ଦୁଷ୍ମନ୍ତ ଦେଖିବା ପାଇଁ ସେଟା ନଈରେ ଗଳି ପଡୁଛି ମାଛ ଖାଇ ଦଉଛି ଏବଂ ଦୁଷ୍ମନ୍ତଙ୍କର ମଧ୍ୟ ବିସ୍ମରଣ ହେଇଯାଉଛି ଦୁର୍ବାସାଙ୍କର ଅଭିଶାପ ଦୁଷ୍ମନ୍ତ ଶକୁନ୍ତଳାଙ୍କୁ ନିଜର ପତ୍ନୀ ଭାବେ ଗ୍ରହଣ କରୁନାହାନ୍ତି ଏଭଳିଆ ଅଛି ନା ରେଜଲ୍ଟ ଶକୁନ୍ତଳା ଫେରି ଆସୁଛନ୍ତି ଏବଂ ଘରେ ବସୁଛନ୍ତି ଏବଂ ଏହି ସମୟରେ କର୍ଣ୍ଣ ମୁନିଙ୍କର ଶିଷ୍ୟମାନେ ଦୁଷ୍ମନ୍ତକୁ ବୁଝାଉଛନ୍ତି ଯେ ଜଣେ ସ୍ତ୍ରୀ ଲୋକ ତା ବାପା ଘରେ ବସିଛି ମ୍ୟାରେଡ୍ ସ୍ତ୍ରୀ ଲୋକ ଏବଂ ସ୍ୱାମୀ ଅଧିକାରକୁ ସେ ମାନୁଛି ତାର ଅବସ୍ଥା କ'ଣ ହବ ଯଦି ତାକୁ ସ୍ୱାମୀ ନ ନିଏ ଏମିତି ବହୁତ ଜିନିଷ ଅଛି ସଂଳାପ ଅଛି ଆମେ ତାକୁ ଏତେ କଥା ଆଲୋଚନା କରିପାରିବାନି ଏହାର ମତଲବ ହେଲା ଯଦି ଏଇ ବାହାଘରଟା ହେଇଥାନ୍ତା ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କ ଜାଣତରେ ଦୁଷ୍ମନ୍ତ ମନା କରିପାରିଥାନ୍ତି କରିପାରିଥାନ୍ତେ ଏକ୍ଜାକ୍ଟଲି
No, sir.
ସୋ ଯଦି ଆମେ ଆଜିକାଲି କେତେ ପଢୁଛେ ପେପରରେ ଆଜିକାଲି ତ ୟୁଟ୍ୟୁବରେ ତମେ ସବୁ ଦେଖୁଥିବ ସବୁ ନ୍ୟୁଜ ବାହାଘର ହେଇଥିଲା ଝିଅ ଯାଇକି ଶାଶୁ ଘରେ ପହଞ୍ଚି ତା ସ୍ୱାମୀ ତାକୁ ନେବା ପାଇଁ ଚାହୁଁନି କାହିଁକି ନା ଏ ବାହାଘର ଶାଶୁ ଘରେ ଜାଣିନାହାନ୍ତି କି ଜ୍ୱାଇଁ ଘରେ ବି କେହି ଜାଣିନାହାନ୍ତି ସେ କହୁଛି ମୋର ସେ ସ୍ୱାମୀ ଇଏ କହୁଛି ନା ମୁଁ ତାକୁ ଜାଣିନି ହଉଛି କି ନା ଏଇଭଳିଆ ଘଟଣା
No, sir.
ହଁ ବୁଝିପାରିଲେ ଏଥର କାହିଁକି ଗନ୍ଧର ବିବାହକୁ ସୋସାଇଟି ଆକ୍ସେପ୍ଟ କରେନି
Yes, sir.
ହଁ
Sir, I was thinking that it is something different kind of marriage, so that's why I asked.
ନା ନାଇଁ କିଛି ନାହିଁ you are welcome to ask I am also clarifying your doubt is genuine why society will not accept because this is the way this is the matter why society is not going to accept okay
Yes, sir.
now
Thank you.
I was talking about the Rakshasa type of marriage. I was telling that how Ambika were taken by Bhishma, and it was called a type of Rakshasa. Generally, among the Kshatriyas, among the royal societies, this sort of kidnapping, forcibly taking away bride were happening. Even in Mahabharata, it has been mentioned that Kshatriyanam tu Viryana prasasta haranam balat. Prasasta means जबरदस्ती बल प्रयोग करिकी हरण करिकी आनी बाहावा होची प्रशस्त एक्सेप्टेबल हैला सो similarly there are also marriages like as I told you rakshasa then asura marriage is also there when by threatening and by giving some sort of physical pain if this marriage is consummated ଯେମିତି ଗୁଣ୍ଡା ମାନେ ଯାଇକି ଖଣ୍ଡା ଭୁଜାଲି ଦେଖେଇ ହାଣିଦେବି ମାରିଦେବି ପରିବାରକୁ ବର୍ବାଦ କରିଦେବି କହି ଯେଉଁ କହନ୍ତି ୟାକୁ ଅସୁର ବୋଲି କହନ୍ତି ସେମିତି ପୈଶାଚ କ'ଣ ପିଶାଚ ମ୍ୟାରେଜ ବି ଅଛି ଯେତେବେଳେ ବ୍ରାଇଡ ଗ୍ରୁମକୁ ନିଶା ଦେଇକି ନିଶା ଦ୍ରବ୍ୟରେ ତାକୁ ଅଚେତ ବା ବେହୋସ କରି ତାକୁ ମ୍ୟାରେଜ କରାଯାଏ ସେଟାକୁ ପୈଶାଚ ମ୍ୟାରେଜ କହନ୍ତି these marriages are not at all accepted by the society because the offspring of this type of marriage will not be adjusted in the social scale or social sphere. Then another thing is that these are the two things of my marriage. Then also these are the form of marriage. Then there were also another two types of marriages. Generally they are not form but they are marriages of different nature. For example, anuloma and pratiloma type of marriages. Anuloma type of marriages and pratiloma type of marriages are the result of the caste, or we can say that caste rigidness, Varna rigidness. In course of time, society became more Varna oriented and very watertight. Deep compartments were made out of these four Varnas. Gradually, they became that different social complex, social segments, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. And among the Vaishya and Sudra, there also rose a lot of number of um, sub branches doing different types of occupation. So also in course of time among the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. Whatever may be, these were the four broad category of classes, Varna. And gradually this Varna order became very rigid because caste mobility or Varna mobility was not there. That nobody can jump from one Varna to another Varna. And this mobility was denied on the basis of inter-religion, inter-dining and intermarriage. What interdining? That interdining means within the group you can feast or you can sit and eat within one Varna group. And also marriage to be taken in the same Varna group. Aji madhya hochi tamane janithibo gotiye jatiri bibaha haba. Olga jatiri bibaha ko ame kohuchu जे अजातिर बा बेजातिर विवाहर सो इंटरकास्ट मैरेज को आम आजिकल इंग्लिश रे कहूँ सो एभलिया मैरेज क्षेत्र रे जतले एभलिया क्षेत्र रे जतले गोटे उच्च जातिर पुओ ता ठारू निम्न जातिर थिबा वर्णर थिबा झियो को बा हुए ताकू कहा जाए अनुलोम टाइप ऑफ मैरेज दिस इज नॉट also accepted in the society. Similarly, vice versa, if a boy from the lower caste marries a girl from higher caste, this is called pratiloma type of marriage. Am I clear now? Pratiloma and anuloma. And both the
Yes, sir.
marriages are not accepted in the society, and offsprings are not actually allowed to remain in the same Varna group. And this is the main reason why there were some subcaste emerged in the early historic period. But this sort of marriages was very rare. Anuloma or Pratiloma, these are very rare because of the strict rules and regulation, very rare. But casually they were happening. So in this way, we see that different types of marriages and also different rules and regulation prescribing regarding the duties of the wife and husband. We see that Katyayana, Dharmasutra, and Vedavyasa, who was the writer of Mahabharata. It has been mentioned that the wife is to be associated with the husband in the performance of his religious act, but all acts done by her to secure her spiritual benefit without his consent are useless. And on the other hand, husband must maintain his wife, and some Dharma Shastra, they strictly disallow a husband to disown his wife. They prescribe strict penalty for a husband who deserts her faultless wife. यदि कौनसी प्रकार दोष न थाई कि गोटे हस्बैंड ता वाइफ को त्याग करथुला ताले ता पई यथेष्ट बड़ पेनांस बा दंड रहउथला समाज ताको दंड दउथला विभिन्न प्रकार ताको समाज रे बास करिया भी मध्य दिया जाउ नथला कह जाउथला जे हस्बैंड रो धार्मिक काम रे वाइफ रो बहुत बड़ योगदान थिला एवं योगदान करिया पई वाइफ मध्य कर्तव्य दृष्टि बाध्य सेमिति जदि वाइफ किछि निजर स्पिरिचुअल बेनिफिट पाई करूची बा धार्मिक उन्नति पाई बा धर्म हासिल करिया पाई करूची धर्म आचरण पाई करूची सेतिर हस्बैंड रो ଅନୁମତି ରହିବା ଦରକାର, ନ ରହିଲେ ସେ ଧର୍ମର କିଛି ମାନେ ରହିବନି। ସେମିତି ହଜବେଣ୍ଡର ମଧ୍ୟ କାମ ୱାଇଫକୁ ମେଣ୍ଟେନ୍ କରିବା ବା ୱାଇଫର ସବୁ କିଛି ଦେଖିବା। That we see that in Hindu and Buddhist sources there are number of references on the interpersonal relationship and a conjugal life. The women were generally mostly responsible for the household management, and they were required to remain subservient to their husband. In Vedic period, women were free. They enjoyed equal rights as well as freedom with their husbands. Now, in course of time, this freedom and rights were marginalized. The freedom and rights of women in the public life were marginalized. Coming to this period, from we can say that 4th century BC to 4th century AD, up to Gupta period, we see that they were marginalized. The basic framework of the social structure can be inferred to be patriarchal. And besides that, there are also references that women were acting or working as sovereign. ଆମେ ଦେଖୁଛେ ଯେ ୱିମେନ୍ ମାନଙ୍କର ଫ୍ରିଡମ୍ ଏବଂ ସେମାନଙ୍କର ବିଭିନ୍ନ ପ୍ରକାରର ଯେଉଁ ଅଧିକାର ଥିଲା ଗୁପ୍ତ ପିରିୟଡ଼ ବୈଦିକ ପିରିୟଡ଼ରେ, ଗୁପ୍ତ ଯୁଗ ଆସିଲା ବେଳକୁ ସେ ଫ୍ରିଡମ୍ ଏବଂ ଅଧିକାରରେ କିଛିଟା ପରିବର୍ତ୍ତନ ହେଇଯାଇଥିଲା। But at the same time we must also remember that ଯଦି ଅଧିକାର ଏବଂ ତାଙ୍କର ସ୍ୱାଧୀନତାରେ କିଛିଟା ଫରକ ଆସିଥିଲା, କିନ୍ତୁ କେତେ ଗୁଡ଼ିଏ ଜାଗାରେ ଆମେ ଦେଖୁଛୁ ସେମାନେ ସୋଭେରେନ୍ ବା ରାଜବଂଶରେ ସୋଭେରେନ୍ ଭଳିଆ ବ୍ୟବହାର କରୁଥିଲେ। In Odisha, we see that there was a Bhomokara dynasty, and in this dynasty the queen like Prithi Mahadevi, Dandi Mahadevi, there were 6 queens who consecutively rules over vast stretch of Tosali, that is from river Suvarna Rekha to river Rishikulya, and encompassing whole of coastal region, as either as the guardian of their minor son, or in the absence of some male heir, they dominated the political scenario. So in general, we can say that this degradation of women's freedom was not universal in India. It is perhaps regional, or we can say that a general condition cannot be apprehended in case of women's status in whole of India. There were also exceptions. So this is about marriage form and their different types of things. Now, when marriages are occurred, marriages were conducted generally, there was a routine job that parents were doing. Saptapadi is there. Before selecting bridegroom or before selecting groom and bride, the parents usually matched the gana. Aji ago ame kohuchu jataka miseva. There are 3 ganas: Nara, Rakshasa and Asura. Nara, Deva and Asura. Rakshasa gana, Nara gana, like that. So according to the ancient scripture, if both the bride and groom belong to the same gana, then it is a very good choice. And if there will be Deva and Nara, then it is a middle combination. There will be some sort of subservience. And if that will be Deva and Rakshasa, or Nara and Rakshasa, there will be very much hostile. The jodi, jahaku ame kahiba, the couple, they will be hostile to each other. that Smriti period, coming to the general position of women, we see that what was the condition of widow? A woman who has lost her husband. I mean, the Smriti laws that were written before the Gupta period that prescribe that a widow should live a life of strict celibacy and self-restraint. ଅର୍ଥ ହେଲା ଯେ ୱିଡୋ ମାନେ ଅତ୍ୟନ୍ତ ନିଷ୍ଠାର ସହିତ ଏବଂ ଅତ୍ୟନ୍ତ ଆତ୍ମସଂଯମତାର ସହିତ ବସବାସ କରିବା ଉଚିତ, ଜୀବନଯାପନ କରିବା ଉଚିତ. Now coming to Gupta period, we see that there was some deviation, and deviation is marked in one Smriti literature, Brihaspati Smriti. It recommends that a widow should burn herself on the funeral pyre of her husband. This marks the beginning of Sati system, Sati Pratha. ସେଦିନ କିଏ ଜଣେ ଆମର ଏଠି ପଚାରୁଥିଲା ସତୀ ପ୍ରଥା ସାର୍, ଏଠି ମୁଁ ତାର ଉତ୍ତର ଦେଉଛି. ଇଏ ଥିଲା ରେକମେଣ୍ଡେସନ ଥିଲା, ପ୍ରକୃତରେ କେତେଟା ହଉଥିଲା? Very rare. Literary references we get, we show that custom of sati was extolled by some author. କିଛି author ବା କିଛି ସ୍ମୃତିକାର ଲେଖକ, ଧର୍ମଶାସ୍ତ୍ର writer, they have recommended this sati system. But at the same time, sati system was very badly condemned by or disapproved by a lot of writers, a number of writers. କିଛି ଅଥର ଲେଖିଲା ବେଳକୁ ଆଉ କିଛି ଅଥର ୟା ବିରୁଦ୍ଧରେ ସ୍ୱର ଉତ୍ତୋଳନ କରୁଥିଲେ ଏବଂ ଏଭଳି ଏକ ପ୍ରଥାକୁ ଅତ୍ୟନ୍ତ ନୃଶଂସ ବା ହିନିୟସ୍ କ୍ରାଇମ୍ ବୋଲି କହୁଥିଲେ. ଏବଂ ମୁଁ ତ ତାର ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ କହିବି, ଗୁପ୍ତ ପିରିୟଡରେ ଗୋଟେ ଅଛି ବହି, ସୁନ୍ଦର ବହିଟେ, ବୃହତ କଥା ବରାମିରଙ୍କର, ଯୋଉଟାକି ମ୍ୟାଟର ଲେଟର ଅଫ ଆଷ୍ଟ୍ରୋଲୋଜି, a treatise on astrology, astronomical work, where women has been praised like anything, and here they have condemned, Brahmir has condemned that sati is not a way to treat a woman whose husband has been dead. Now, very interestingly, what we see that during this period, Chinese travelers have visited India. Can you name one of the Chinese travelers who visited India during Gupta period?
Payan.
Payan. Correct. Yes, Payan. Huensang came in during Harshavardhan times, and there were also travelers like Ising who came during post-Gupta period. So many travelers they have come. Payan is the most prominent one. These travelers, Chinese travelers, have left their memoirs. Memoirs means their accounts, bibarani. Bibarani semane chhadi jayichanti. And in these accounts, Chinese accounts, we don't get any reference to the occurrence of sati. Sati pratha ବିଷୟରେ ବା ସତୀ ବ୍ୟବସ୍ଥାକୁ ପରିଚାଳନା କରାଯାଉଥିବା ସମ୍ପର୍କରେ ଚାଇନିଜ ଟ୍ରାଭେଲର ମାନେ କୌଣସି ଜାଗାରେ ଉଲ୍ଲେଖ କରୁନାହାନ୍ତି. ସେମାନେ ଭାରତର ଜାତି ବିଷୟରେ କହୁଛନ୍ତି, ବିଭିନ୍ନ ପ୍ରକାର ଲୋକଙ୍କ ବିଷୟରେ କହୁଛନ୍ତି, ବିଭିନ୍ନ ପ୍ରକାର ଅଲଗା ସୋସିଆଲ କଷ୍ଟମ ବିଷୟରେ କହୁଛନ୍ତି, କିନ୍ତୁ ସତୀ ପ୍ରଥା ବିଷୟରେ କୌଣସି ଚାଇନିଜ ଟ୍ରାଭେଲର, ଫାୟାନ ବା ଇସିଂ ଏମାନେ କେହି କିଛି ସେ ସମୟରେ କହୁନାହାନ୍ତି. On the whole, we can say that on general grounds, widows in the Gupta period, as in the early time, usually live in a very chaste and austere life full of austerity, as prescribed by the Smritis. Perhaps the बृहस्पति स्मृति बोधे बृहस्पति स्मृति रे जो women मानकर widow मानकर लिखाई सती विषय रे बोधे सेटा गोटे एमिति रेफरेंस होइथिबो जे जदि कोनोसी widow women निजर जीवन रे कोनोसी प्रकार बाचलामी बा विचलता देखैथिबो बाचलामिता देखैथिबो से केस रे लिखाइथिबो एभले women माने सती हेजिबा उचित whatever it may be, but we don't get any real instance of sati from any of the corroborative evidences from the Gupta period. But marriage of widows were not favored, but it was not also forbidden. Favor honudala, forbidden bhi nathila. In upper class society and lower class society, this system was prevalent because we see that Chandragupta II Vikramaditya, who was younger brother of Ramagupta, देवी चंद्रगुप्त नाटक आम यहाँ शुणा देखा पाऊ जे रामगुप्त कर सान भाई थे चंद्रगुप्त द्वितीय बा विक्रमादित्य रामगुप्त जने कापुरुष प्रकार लोक थे समुद्रगुप्त रामगुप्त प्रथम 5 वर्ष राजा होते किंतु शक मान अत्याचार एवं ताड़ना से सही पारे शक राजा मान सहित संधि युक्त होते जे शक राजा को सी किसी उपहार देवे एवं उपहार भितर निज राणी ध्रुव स्वामिनी को मध्य से प्रदान करेंगे एथिरे उत्क्षिप्त होगी रामगुप्त को हत्या करते चंद्रगुप्त एवं निजे राजा होते एवं रानी ध्रुव स्वामिनी को ध्रुव देवी को विवाह करते सो वी गेट रेफरेंस टू दिस सॉर्ट ऑफ थिंग्स generally prevalent in the royalty among the royalties or highest class of society having power and strength or lower class of society without any moral code of conduct but among the general mass public householders this is very unknown. On the whole, the social and domestic life of the period continued from the earlier period with certain restriction and certain changes. As I have already told you, no intermarriage, no dining, like that. There are so many points, you can go through them. Then changing social pattern. We see that Varna concept comes largely during this time from Dharma Sutras. And they have been, Dharma Sutras have enumerated and explained Varna and related job or duties of each Varna segments. The concept of Varna is quite closely associated with Dharma. Now, in your book, you will find that it is a sense of universal law. Generally, Dharma means actually universal law. And similarly, Dharma is also based upon your Swakarma. For example, if you are a student, your Dharma is to study, read. As a teacher, my Dharma is to teach. So this is universal law associated with my karma. One must discharge his karma in order to maintain the dharma. Similarly, such things also happened with Varna order. Smritis and Dharma Shastra writer, they now refer as well as prescribe each Varna and in association with their dharma, in combination with their dharma. Dharma Shastras, they clearly mention, as we know, that society is made of 4 Varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. Another order by the Gupta period came to emerge in the society. And that order was the order of untouchability. Or we can say that Chandala, Chandala Varna, Chandala, untouchable. And we know that this Varna system first appeared in 10th Mandala of Veda. Later on, we get 4 types of order, but they are not enumerated in Vedic literature so much. In later period, in Manusmriti, Manu provides a list of Varna and occupation associated with it. Now, whatever it may be, there were no doubt a pattern has developed. A pattern means a trend had developed that Varna associated with karma, occupation, and in course of time, there were subcaste, or we can say that offshoot came up from different Varna according to the Kula karma or Shokarma, or we can say that Kula dharma, Kula karma. And Chandala or the untouchability also began to surface. And generally, some say that the Chandalas are menial worker who worked as scavengers, Safai Karmachari jahaku ame koi beriya, and they do dirty things. Therefore, generally higher caste of people, they don't allow them to enter their periphery of their settlement, and result, they become untouchable. That may be a case, but one thing is for certain, that this sort of things no doubt segregated the entire social structure of the Hindu society. So this is about Varna and Jati. In Buddhist order, we get 2 types of social division, where it has been mentioned as in Buddhist scripture, low Jati or Hina Jati and excellent Jati or higher Jati, that is Ukkalta Jati or Utkarsha Jati. Those who were in the higher, they were called Utkarsha in the social sphere, and low Jati people were Hina Jati. But at the same time, Buddha, and also in the Buddhist literature, it has been mentioned that the relationship of Jati has nothing to do with spiritual attainment. याको अत्यंत सरल भाବରେ କହିଲେ, there is nothing to do with the relationship between Jati and spiritual attainment. It means in course of your religious pursuit or religious activity, Jati has nothing to do. And in doing so, Buddha recognizes importance of Jati and Gotra in social interaction only, but rules out the role of Jati in the spiritual field. So in one of the Purusha Kassapa, that is a Buddhist scripture, there are many social division has been mentioned on the basis of their occupation, caste, trade, like that, like Kannabhi Jati, Nilabhi Jati, Lohita Jati, Haladri Jati, and Sukhavi Jati, white Jati, yellow Jati, red Jati, like that. And they indicate to different types of profession. For example, Kannabhi Jati, that is black Jati, comprising people who followed the trade like butchering, then hunters, fishermen, and robbers. Nicha karma jo mane karanti. Blue Jati or Nilavi Jati, they were the Bhikshus of Buddhist order. Lohitavi Jati or Red Jati, they were the Jainas. Paladvi Jati, that is yellow Jati, those were robbers robbing households and grahapatis. Sukhavi Jati, that is Ajivikas who used to wear white garments. This is a very vague classification of Jati. So far Buddhist perspective is concerned, nothing to do with general Varna order or social structure of Hindu society of ancient time. So this is about Varna and Jati. Then while we shall come to different chapter, we shall discuss about proliferation of caste. Proliferation means ଜାତିର ବହୁଳତା କେମିତି ହେଲା। ଯଦିଓ এটা ଆରମ୍ଭ ହେଇଯାଇଥିଲା ଗୁପ୍ତ ଯୁଗ ପିରିୟଡ ବେଳକୁ, ଗୁପ୍ତ ଯୁଗ ସମୟରୁ ବା ଗୁପ୍ତ ଯୁଗ ପୂର୍ବରୁ, but it is very much explicit in early medieval period, in early medieval society. Next portion that we shall discuss, early medieval society, the transition. What is early medieval society? How periodization came into existence? And what was the polity and society during early medieval society? We shall discuss. Taking only 5 minutes break. 5 minutes break. Okay? କିଛି ସମୟ ମୁଁ ବ୍ରେକ୍ ନେଉଛି, ପାଣି ଟିକେ ପିଇବି, ଯେତେ ସମୟ କହିହେବନି. Okay? So after 5 minutes we shall meet again. Come back, please. All are present or hello, everybody?
Yes, sir.
Present?
Again, sir.
Okay. Okay. Should we start again?
Yes, sir.
We are talking about the transition of to early medieval societies in next content and next unit. Now I'm going to give you a very brief as well as comprehensive description of early medieval society and the changes that occur in this society. Generally, if you study your study material, there is a lot of discussion, analysis regarding early medieval society. For example, regarding periodization of Indian history. Generally, this periodization rests upon two two types of views. One view is European view, or we can say that imperialist view, forwarded by J. Mill, and view is more communal with regard to Indian history because he periodized Indian history, or he divided Indian history into three phases: Hindu phase, Muslim phase, and British phase. Hindu phase taking up to Battle of Tarai when Muhammad Ghori defeated Prithviraj Chauhan, starting from slave dynasty by Qutbuddin Aibak to the fall of Mughal period, the Muslim period, then the British period. Is a more communal in nature. Nationalists, they argue that it is not Hindu but ancient period, medieval period, and modern period. And generally, among the nationalist historians, there is another thing that comes as opposition to them. They take ancient period as very slow Asiatic mode of production. That is the opinion given by Karl Marx. Now he is criticized as not knowing Indian history as a whole. So many things have been discussed. But in nutshell, we can say that early medieval period is a phase of Indian history which precedes medieval period or Delhi Sultanate or medieval Mughal India, and it is generally after Harshavardhana. People say that from 6th century to 13th century. Some take it from 750 AD to 1200 AD. A number of scholars like N.R. Rai, B.D. Chattopadhyay, they have given their opinion, but they have unanimously come to the point that early medieval period has been incorporated as a special phase of Indian history because here we get a deviation from ancient times, which was present, the trades, social trades, economic condition that was present during the empire building time or imperialism time, and now the time which succeeded it during Delhi Sultanate or Mughal India with a centralized type of administration. Why it is so? Because this period, we can say that the early medieval period, which is marked by significant political, economic, social, and cultural transformation, ranging from a time period 750 AD to 1200 AD, or we can say that 650 AD to 1300 AD, which posed a challenge to historians attempting to categorize Indian history into distinct periods. As I told you, traditionally Indian history was divided into three phases of time: ancient, medieval, and modern. And in the dynastic way, it has been mentioned as Hindu, Muslim, and British. This sort of segmentation, periodization has drawn criticism. Now, scholars like N.R. Roy have suggested associating historical periods with underlying characteristics and systematic change rather than simply with rulers or religion. It means that historical phases should be marked with certain changes. For example, when you were reading in class 3, you are the same boy or girl when you are reading class 3. So your life cannot be called as a continuous thing without any change. So your class 3 period is totally different from your plus 3 period. Plus 3 ରେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ପଢୁଥିଲ ସେଇ ପିରିୟଡ଼ କେମିତି ତମ ପଢ଼ା ଶୈଳୀରେ ଚେଞ୍ଜ ଆସୁଛି, ପାଠପଢ଼ା ପାଠ୍ୟକ୍ରମରେ ଚେଞ୍ଜ ଆସୁଛି, ତା ସହିତ ତମ ଚିନ୍ତାଧାରାରେ ମଧ୍ୟ ଚେଞ୍ଜ ଆସୁଛି। କ୍ଲାସ୍ 3ରେ ତମେ ଯେତିକି ଚିନ୍ତା କରୁଥିଲ, ଯେତିକି ଜାଣିଥିଲ, ତାଠୁ ଯଥେଷ୍ଟ ମେଚ୍ୟୁର୍ଡ ହେଇକି ତମେ ପ୍ଲସ୍ 3ରେ ଚିନ୍ତା କରିବାକୁ ଲାଗୁଛ। ସେମିତି ଇନ୍ ଦ ହିଷ୍ଟୋରିକାଲ perspective, we must also associated with changes in the realm of society, economy, and also in the sphere of cultural activity. So we cannot simply say historical period should be based upon religion or ruler, Hindu ruler, Muslim ruler, British Christian ruler, not like that. What change has come up with that period? So what we see that in early medieval period, a lot of changes came into existence. This is the period we see that a lot of things happened in the realm of politics, in the sphere of economy, and also in the cultural panorama. R.S. Sharma, who is a leading historian of India, he has prescribed a number of characteristics or features with regard to early medieval period. Number one, that is rise of territorial states. Territorial states means we can say that the states that were governed by Kshatriya or Rajanya, having a centralized feature with a officialdom or a centralized bureaucracy, where people were receiving, officials were receiving cash. Now it came to be different in early this period, that period that we say 600 to 1300 or 750 to 1300 AD. So these were the economic expansion. During this time, in ancient time, there was a large-scale economic expansion program was being carried out. There was cash-based economy during ancient time, trade network, and also specialized craft developed during this time. And side by side, they had developed urban prosperity. And as we have already discussed, there was a very great urban culture flourishing throughout the country, throughout India. It was urbanization, process of urbanization. And in social structure, what we see, Varna system solidified with Brahmanas and Kshatriya as the top ranking class of the society. Vaishyas ruling, Vaishyas having trade and commerce, also doing cultivation, while Sudras were service provider helping the Vaishyas and Kshatriyas in the cultivation, in the trade. So it was not that Sudras were dasas, it was a deviation. We cannot say that it was just like European slavery. It differed from European self serfdom. By this time, early phase of history, caste multiplicity, or just as I told you, caste proliferation has not taken place in a large scale. Already it has started, but not at a very large scale. And villages where communal landholding was prevalent became the nucleus of social and economic activities. And it also helped for establishing a deep rooted rural fabric. Now, what are the transition to the early medieval period? The very word early medieval period exhibit a gradual transition from the early historic period, indicate both continuity and transformation in political and socio-economic structure. This prospective contrast with the concept of Orientalism, which traditionally view Indian society as timeless and unchanging. I've already discussed about this timeless, unchanging Indian society. As Orientalist, they argue the Indian society has no change. It is timeless, and no change is confronted by Indian society or faced by Indian society. But what we say that historians like R.S. Sharma, D.D. Kosambi, and others, they advocate that there was changes, there were changes in the socio-economic scenario of India in a phase of time, in a period of time, which we can say that it is a transitional phase of Indian history. It was a transition from early history, early Indian history to early medieval phase. And here, people like D.D. Sharma and R.S. Sharma and D.D. Kosambi, they try to explain this transformation through the lens of Indian feudalism. Through the lens means through the concept of Indian feudalism. They said that there was some sort of changes in the production relation. Production relation. Production କ୍ଷେତ୍ରରେ ବା ଉତ୍ପାଦନ କ୍ଷେତ୍ରରେ କେତେକ ପରିବର୍ତ୍ତନ ଆସିଲା. And that production relation, which was responsible for overall growth of society, economy, as well as lifestyle in early historical period, transformed the Indian society in late early medieval period. What are these feudal polity? What are the features of this feudal polity or early medieval society? I shall take 2 minutes break. Okay. What is the features? What are the features of that feudalism? Or we can say that early medieval period socio, socio or economic and political condition. One thing you must remember that feudalism, as suggested by D.D. Kosambi and R.S. Sharma in the context of Indian history during early medieval period, cannot be equated with the feudalism that existed in Europe during this time. Exactly during this time, Europe, particularly Western and Central Europe, underwent social and economic changes, and it was also marked by feudalistic economy. This feudalism, European feudalism, is also known in the name of manorial feudalism. And the features are more or less same, but nature is totally different. So, what are the Indian side feudalism and what are its features? Number one, fragmentation of authority. We can say that decentralization of political power, fragmentation of authority, or we can say that decentralization of political power. The centralized imperial power like Mauryan Empire that collapsed around third, 4th century, the second, 1st century BC. And collapse of that centralized administration led to the rise of local rulers with limited autonomy. What we see that this decentralization was marked by land grants, both for the purpose of secular as well as religious, which included religious rights to the donee or to the person who was given grant. As a result, multiple centers emerged, and that undermined the centralized authority and its power. If we analyze it very simply, decentralized power is a mark of early medieval political scenario. मौर्य शासन पर गुप्त जुग आसु आसु अनेक छोट छोट राज्य सारा भारत में देखागला एवं केतोड़िया राज्य राजा रिलीजियस बा धार्मिक एवं ऑल्सो निजर लौकिक आकांक्षा पाई जमी अनुदान सूत्र रे धार्मिक अनुष्ठान मानकु देले, पुरोहित मानकु देले, बौद्ध भिक्षु मानकु देले एवं ता सहित ए जमी सहित सेमानकु प्रशासनिक अधिकार मध्य दे देले, जहा फल रे सेंट्रलाइज्ड पावर पाखरे बा केंद्रीभूत सरकार पाखरे जो प्रकार शक्ति थिला, क्षमता थिला, से क्षमतार किछिटा अंश अंकुश तो लागिलानी, बरं से क्षमतार विकेंद्रीकरण हो गला एवं जहा फल रे सेंट्रलाइज्ड पावर बोली तार क्षमता एवं तार जो अधिकार थिला सेथिरे यथेष्ट क्षुण्ण आसियाकु लागिला. साइड बाय साइड decentralized administrative structure began to develop. Number two, land grants began to be given to the people or donee who were generally Brahmanas or some religious institution, either Buddhist or Jaina or Brahmanical religious institution. They were given on the basis of religious gain or some secular purpose. This land grant system came to exist during Satavahana time. Satavahanas was emerged as a powerful ruling class in Andhra area, today's Maharashtra as well as Andhra Pradesh. They began to give land grants to Brahmanas as well as Buddhist institutions. Their case was also followed by, example was followed by subsequent ruler. And during Gupta period, we see that this sort of land grants were began to given to the donors, to the donees in a large scale. And these land grants, ଯାହାକୁ ଆମେ ଭୂମି ଅନୁଦାନ ପ୍ରଥା କହୁଛୁ, they were some sort of administrative order, government order, generally inscribed on copper plate, and in the presence of different ministers, officials of the kingdom, kings or queens or the offspring of kings or queens, they were granting these lands to different religious institutions. These land grants not only carry the grant of land with them, but also they give the rights of administration over the land that has been granted to the donee. The result is that there was decentralized governance or administration. During Mauryan period, it was more centralized. Also during Gupta period, some sort of centralized administration was noticed. But coming to this early medieval period, feudal period we also call it, the land grant system marked the emergence of a decentralized governance or administrative system, because the grants conferred administrative rights over the land that has been granted to the donee. This shift of centralized administrative structure to decentralized one significantly altered political control. Here we see that another characteristic, feudal characteristics in the government. While official structure remained monarchical, Raja achanti, Raja chali galeni, Raja baschanti, the feudal attribute introduced fragmentation, reducing central control and weakening of cohesion of Hindu polities. As I told you, राजा जो जमी अनुदान रे दउतले से जमी उपरे अधिकार पाउथवा लोक पाखकु मध्य सेई जमी बा सेई अंचल उपरे राजनैतिक बा प्रशासनिक अधिकार आस जाउथला. राजनैतिक कहि परियानी, प्रशासनिक अधिकार आस जाउथला. फलरे सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट रो जो कंट्रोल रहउथला से कंट्रोल आस्ते आस्ते दुर्बल हो जाउथला. So there are historians who criticize this or who comments on this that early medieval India displayed a federal feudal empire model. Federal feudal means जेमिति आम भारत देश फेडराल देश आम यूनिटारी इन स्पिरिट बट फेडराल इन फॉर्म गुड़ाए आमर राज्य अच्छी प्रोविंस अच्छी जहाँकि निज निज को नियंत्रण कर समस्त सरकार अच्छे केंद्र गोटे सरकार अच्छी. सो इट इज अ फेडरेशन ऑफ स्टेट्स. सिमिलरली किछि ऐतिहासिक मैंने कहते हैं समय जो अवस्था को दिस इज ए टाइम where we see that it was a feudal federal empire model. Empire थिला, राजा थिले, गुप्त राजा थिले, हर्षवर्धन थिले, किंतु ता सहित प्रेटी राजा माने विभिन्न जगह शासन करथिले, निज निज आयतरे निज निज अंचल को रखुथिले. सेति में हमें अनेक से भलिया राजांकर उपाधि मध्ये देखियो पाऊ. सामंत, महासामंत, मंडलाधिकृत, मंडलाधीश्वर, लाइक दैट. तापरे पुणी ब्राह्मण मान जो गाँ दिया से गाँ पर अधिकार ब्राह्मण मान रोला शासन करने एवं विभिन्न प्रकार धार्मिक एवं आर्थिक नियंत्रण से अधीन रोला. सो दिस इज अबाउट द जनरल फीचर्स ऑफ फ्यूडल पॉलिटी और फ्यूडल सिस्टम दैट emerged ड्यूरिंग the time of early medieval period. Now, what are the key features of early medieval period in India? Number one, we see that During this period, the regional kingdom began to emerge with their regional identity. Kingdoms during this period were more regional oriented comparative to early European nation states. And this period we see that there were a lot of small kingdoms scattered all around India, dotted on the Indian soil. For example, centralized and imperial administration like Mauryan period was over, Gupta period was over. From 650 to 1300 BC AD, what do we see that? Regional kingdom cropped up like mushroom. For example, here in eastern part of India, we have kingdom like Utkala, the Kalinga, South Kosala, and also in this division there were also Tosali, Dakshina Tosali, Uttar Tosali. The small province of Odisha has so many kingdoms. Besides that, there were also kingdoms of the Bhanjas, Kijinga Kota, Khinjali Mandala. So this is the way that the political system had developed during this period. Bhanjas, Nandas, Surki, they were either subordinate to Bhaumakaraj or Somavansis with changing time. But regional kingdom cropped up with regional identity. Similarly, in south western coast, there were Saurashtra, ଯାହାକୁ ଆମେ ଆଜି ଗୁଜରାଟ କହୁଛୁ. Then here Karnasubana, Gowda, Bengal. Rada later on came to be known. In deep south, there were Chola, Pandyas, Kerala Putras. So in this way, we see there were number of states. There were kingdom of Rashtrakutas, Chalukyas, number of states. They were divided into, the entire India was divided into, with their regional identity. And they were, what they were doing? They were not sitting idle. They were fighting for each other. Fighting with each other for supremacy. And we see that during this time there was a great struggle, tripartite struggle, for the supremacy of northern India. Northern India, that is the one was the center of the Guptas or the Mauryas. This tripartite struggle was generally between Palas from Bengal, Rashtrakutas from the south, and from Deccan, the Pratyaharas. So, Deccan or West, we can say that. Pratyaharas from Gujarat and Rajasthan. So in this way, we see that there was a constant fighting, but gradually the centralized fabric of political order was losing its hold, along with the centralized bureaucratic system. This is the polity. Remember, I am giving you a very brief and comprehensive concept about the thing. Then what was the economy? Now, early historical phase witnessed a very prosperous and expanding urban economy where surplus was produced, no doubt, from agricultural field. But at the same time, just a minute, one. Okay, I'm back. So this economy that was purely not agrarian, but it was a combination of industrial, commercial, and agrarian economy in early historical period. There was empire to control. Social surplus was produced for non-producing class. There was trade and commerce to carry out. Large trade and commerce, even to the extent of overseas trading activity. Now, in early medieval period, there was no doubt the scale of trade and commerce reduced. Side by side, the art and craft, that was the most important features of urban economy during early historical period, also saw a back foot. The economy transferred from a caste nexus to predominantly agrarian structure. The result of this was weakening of urban centers and limited trade. We see during this period there is urban decay. Scholars like B.D. Chattopadhyay, they argue that there was no such urban decay during early medieval period. They argue that this is a very wrong conception. If Pataliputra, like ancient cities, they faced decline or decay, then cities like Kannauj emerged to supplement them, take their place in early medieval period. Whatever it may be, it can be also argued that Kannauj could not compete with, cannot compete with the status that Pataliputra or Ujjain had during this time. Decay means we cannot say that it is dead. Decay means the pomps and grandeur, the lustre that was existing in previous time with the cities, urban centers, that was faded, gradually faded during early medieval period because trade and commerce was not rampant, not voluminous. That does not mean that trade was not there. Trade was there, but it was not that voluminous as it compared to in early medieval period. Cash money was also became scarce. ତା ମାନେ ନୁହଁ ଯେ ଟଙ୍କା ପଇସା ନଥିଲା, ଥିଲା ଦିନାର ଥିଲା। ଆମେ ଏଠି ଓଡ଼ିଶାରେ ମଧ୍ୟ ମାଢ଼ ଗୋଟେ କଏନ୍ ବୋଲି ପାଉ, ରୂପା ଟଙ୍କା ଥିଲା, ସୁନା ଟଙ୍କା ଥିଲା, କପର ଥିଲା। କିନ୍ତୁ ଯେତିକି କ୍ୟାସ୍ ମନି ଆମେ ପାଉଥିଲୁ ଗୁପ୍ତ ପିରିୟଡ଼ରେ, ସୁନା ମୁଦ୍ରାର ଯଦି ଆମେ ପ୍ରକାର ଦେଖିବା, ବହୁତ ପ୍ରକାର, 4 ପ୍ରକାର ସୁନା ମୁଦ୍ରା ଚନ୍ଦ୍ରଗୁପ୍ତ ପ୍ରଥମ ମୁଦ୍ରଣ କରିଥିଲେ। ତାଙ୍କ ପୁଅ 8 ପ୍ରକାର ସମୁଦ୍ରଗୁପ୍ତ, ତାଙ୍କ ପୁଅ ଚନ୍ଦ୍ରଗୁପ୍ତ ଦ୍ୱିତୀୟ ବିକ୍ରମାଦିତ୍ୟ 12 ପ୍ରକାର, ତାଙ୍କ ପୁଅ 16 ପ୍ରକାର ସ୍ୱର୍ଣ୍ଣ ମୁଦ୍ରା। ମୁଁ ଯେତେବେଳେ କହୁଛି ବିଭିନ୍ନ ପ୍ରକାର ସ୍ୱର୍ଣ୍ଣ ମୁଦ୍ରା, ଇଟ୍ ମିନ୍ସ ଦେ ୱେର୍ ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ ଇନ୍ ସାଇଜ୍ ଆଣ୍ଡ ୱେଟ୍। ଏବଂ ସୁନାର ମାନେ ବୁଝିପାରୁଥିବ ହ୍ୱାଟ୍ ୱାଜ୍ ଦି ଏକ୍ସଟେଣ୍ଟ ଅଫ୍ ଇକୋନୋମି ଡ୍ୟୁରିଂ ଦ ଟାଇମ୍। ସୁନା ମାନେ ଯେମିତି ଆମର 2000 ଟଙ୍କା ନୋଟ୍ ବନ୍ଦ ହେଇଗଲା ଏବେ, କିନ୍ତୁ ତାମାନେ କ'ଣ, ଯେତେ ଡିନୋମିନେସନର ପଇସା ତାମାନେ ଅର୍ଥନୀତି ସେତିକି ସୁଦୃଢ଼ ହୋଇଛି। ନହେଲେ ଏତେ ଡିନୋମିନେସନ ନେଇକି ଲୋକ କାରବାର କରିପାରିବ ନାହିଁ। ବୁଝାଉଛି କି ନାହିଁ ପଏଣ୍ଟ? ହ୍ୟାଲୋ।
ଆଜ୍ଞା ସାର୍।
ହଁ, ମୁଁ କାହିଁକି ନା ତମ ମଝିରେ ମଝିରେ ଆଜ୍ଞା ଆଜ୍ଞା କହୁଥିବ, ନହେଲେ ମୁଁ ଭାବି ତମେ କହିବ ମୁଁ ଖାଲି ଏକୁଟିଆ କହିଚାଲିଛି, କେହି ନଥିବେ ସେ ପାଖରେ।
ନାଇଁ ସାର୍, ଆମେ ଶୁଣୁଛୁ।
ହଁ, ବୁଝିହଉଛି କି ନାହିଁ? କଥା ବୁଝିବାକୁ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କର।
ଆଜ୍ଞା।
ଅର୍ଲି ହିଷ୍ଟୋରିକାଲ ଫେଜ୍ରେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ମୌର୍ଯ୍ୟ ସାମ୍ରାଜ୍ୟ, ଗୁପ୍ତ ସାମ୍ରାଜ୍ୟ ଥିଲା, ସେ ସମୟରେ ଯେମିତି ସହରର ଚମକ ଦମକ ଥିଲା, ପରବର୍ତ୍ତୀ ଅବସ୍ଥାରେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ 650ରୁ 1300 ଖ୍ରୀଷ୍ଟାବ୍ଦ ଭିତରେ ସହରମାନଙ୍କୁ ଦେଖୁଛୁ, ତାର କିଛିଟା ଅବକ୍ଷୟ ହେବାକୁ ଲାଗିଲାଣି। କାହିଁକି? ଟ୍ରେଡ୍ ଆଣ୍ଡ କମର୍ସରେ ବାଧା ଆସିଲା। ଟ୍ରେଡ୍ ଆଣ୍ଡ କମର୍ସରେ ବାଧା ଆସିବା କାହିଁକି? ଇକୋନୋମି ଆଗ୍ରାରିଆନ୍ ହେଇଗଲା, ଏଗ୍ରିକଲଚରାଲ। ଯେହେତୁ ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡ ଗ୍ରାଣ୍ଟସ୍ ଦିଆଗଲା, ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡ ଗ୍ରାଣ୍ଟ ସହିତ ଆଡମିନିଷ୍ଟ୍ରେଟିଭ ଅର୍ଡର ମଧ୍ୟ ଦିଆହେଲା, ଆଡମିନିଷ୍ଟ୍ରେଟିଭ ରାଇଟ୍ସ ମଧ୍ୟ ଦିଆହେଲା ଡୋନିମାନଙ୍କୁ, ଯେଉଁମାନେ ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡ ଗ୍ରାଣ୍ଟସ୍ ପାଇଲେ, ସେ ବ୍ରାହ୍ମଣ ହୁଅନ୍ତୁ କିମ୍ବା वैश्य हूँ जो मैंने पाइले ता सहित राजनीति राजकर्मचारी मानक लैंड ग्रांट्स दियाला पैसा कौन जिन कारबार है सो कैश मनी बिकेम वेरी स्केयर कैश फ्लो बिकेम लिमिटेड एवं जो कैश फ्लो लिमिटेड हो इकोनॉमी केमी सेल्फ सफिशिएंट मीन्स जो गाँव में जहाँ प्रोड्यूस होची से गाँव में से खाइबे ता माने नुह गोटे गाँव में जब आखु खाली प्रोड्यूस हो खाली आखु खाई रहे कि पाख गाँव में सोरिष होची सेठू सोरिष नहीं तेल बाहर करेंगे ता पाख गाँव में जब गहम होची सेठू गहम आनबे ता पाख गाँव में धान होची धान आनिबे यार कहयार अर्थ होची a cluster of village will manage their economic affair among themselves cluster of villages so the production that will not get any scope to be channelized into a center which is generally called as urban center ता माने नो जो urban center उडा पर ध्वस्त हो गला थिला किंतु very limited so this is agrarian based economy then there were also another development in the cultural sphere. Caste became to be proliferated. Caste became proliferated. Proliferated means caste मानकर संख्या बढ़िया लगला विभिन्न प्रकार कर्मकार कर्मजीवी मानक कर्म सहित जड़ित थिबा लोक माने सेही कास्ट परिगणित होगा को लागिले माने फॉर एग्जांपल मालाकार माड़ी स्वर्णकार बणिया स्वर्णकार माने जे सुनारे तैयारी करतला काम से तो वैश्य हवा कथा ना बणिया देन तैल जे तेल बाहर करे तेली तैलक सेमिति जे गुड़े मिठाई प्रस्तुत करतला गौड़ी को बोली कहले गुड़िया कालक्रम ये सब जाति माने को भितर अधिकांश जाति को ग्रहण करागला जो मान पाखर भोजन ग्रहण करहब जो मान पाखर भोजन ग्रहण करहबनी माने जंगा हाथ पानी पीहब जंगा हाथ पानी पीहबनी मुझे जो जाति मान कहली माड़ी आज भी पूजा कर शिव मंदिर ओडिशा बणिया एमाने सब उच्च जातिर कर्मकार माने जदिओ से वैश्य तल को स्टाटस दि जाउतला किंतु से वैश्य भाया स्टाटस रे रखा जाउतला सो ए कर्म सहित जड़ित ना गुड़ाक विभिन्न जाति रे परिणत होगा लगे विभिन्न इवन ब्राह्मण मान भीतर बहुत जाति आसीगला यही समय आम देखुचु विभिन्न रिजन रे रोथुवा ब्राह्मण माने से रिजन अनुसार परिचित हेले फॉर एग्जांपल गौड़ीय ब्राह्मण जो माने बेंगल रहिले उत्कलीय ब्राह्मण जो माने उड़ीसा रहिले एमानक भीतर मध्य तारतम्यता रहिला ब्राह्मण मध्य निज निज भीतर किए बड़ ब्राह्मण कन्नौज ब्राह्मण जो माने उत्तर प्रदेश कन्नौज अंचल आइले कन्नौज ब्राह्मण बोली से अभिहित कराउतला सुरसेनी ब्राह्मण जो माने सुरसेन बा मथुरा अंचल रोते बेंगी बा साउथ इंडिया रो जो ब्राह्मण मान रहिले बंगी ब्राह्मण बा तांको कहला साउथ रो ब्राह्मण माने सो एमिति विभिन्न प्रकार जाति रे मध्य ब्राह्मण माने भाग हो गले एवं सब बड़ आश्चर्यर कथा ब्राह्मण मानक भितर मध्य विभिन्न प्रकार श्रेणी विशेष आसीगला विभिन्न कर्म को लेकिन जो माने टिके उच्च स्तर थिले जमी जमा थिला जमी ग्रांड राजा पाई से माने कुलीन ब्राह्मण बोली निजको आख्या देले कौलिक प्रथा तांकर ब्राह्मण वृत्ति बोली कहले कुलीन बोली कहले जो माने टिके अल्प जमी पाइथिले बा मंदिर रे पूजा पाठ करथिले बा लोक मान घरे जजमानी काम करिकी काम करथिले तांको जजमानी ब्राह्मण बोली कहला एवं जो माने विभिन्न प्रकार ब्राह्मण काम कले छोट कर्म फॉर एग्जांपल मृत संस्कार इत्यादि कले श्राद्ध क्रिया इत्यादि कले से मध्य आउरी निम्न स्तर देखाला तमे गोटे वर्ड सुनथिबो घाटुआ ब्राह्मण ओडिसा रे हमर घाटुआ ब्राह्मण बोली गोटे ब्राह्मण अच्छी जो मैंने केवल श्राद्ध कर्म इत्यादि संपादन करती से उच्च स्तर देखा जाए कि आम जाने ब्राह्मण मान होती सब उच्च जाति कि कहीं देखाला पुणी एमती कहीं यही समय विभिन्न प्रकार चिंताधारा एवं ता सहित अर्थनैतिक संपर्क विभिन्न जाति भितर प्रोलिफरेशन खाली आनलानी भीतर तल उपर हायरार्की आहरी गैप बा हायरार्की तल उपर व्यवस्था को आहरी तीक्ष्ण करदेला बा अधिका करदेला बुझेला
आज्ञा सर
Similarly,
Yes,
we see that, huh? Yes, you want to ask anything, Bapun?
yes, sir. बुझिला sir.
बुझिगला तो ओके
Yes, sir.
प्रोलिफरेशन ऑफ सेक्ट बर्तमान मध्य आमे विभिन्न सेक्ट देखिया पाउछु फॉर एग्जांपल आमे जानिचे बौद्ध धर्म गोटे थिला किंतु अशोकଙ୍କ समୟରେ अशोकଙ୍କ पूर्वରୁ बौद्ध धर्म रे किछि सेक्टेरियन फिलिंग आसला सेक्टेरियन फिलिंग माने गोष्ठीवाद कहा जाए जे अशोक थर्ड बुद्धिस्ट काउंसिल डाकिथिले अशोक होजन मौर्य सम्राट ये सेक्टेरियन बाद को भूलिया पाई बा सेक्टेरियन बाद को बौद्ध धर्म रु विलोप करिया पाई किंतु अशोक से सफल होई नथिले मुख्यतः दीटी पंथा ये 18टी सेक्ट भितर आसला गोटे होजंती स्थविरवादीन बा थेरावादीन गोटे होजंती महासंघिक परवर्ती अवस्था कनिष्क समय बौद्ध धर्म दुई भाग विभक्त है ऑफिशियली तुम जानिथिबो महायान एवं हीनयान एवं आर्ली मिडिएवल पीरियड रे आमे बौद्ध धर्म रे अनेक भाग मध्य देखुछु ए महायान धर्म भितर आमे अनेक धर्मवाद को देखिया पाऊ फॉर एग्जांपल सहजयान तंत्रयान like that these were all subsect and that diversified the landscape beyond traditional Vedic practices. So वैष्णव धर्म रे मध्य विभिन्न प्रकार सेक्ट बादे हला किए कहला गौड़ीय वैष्णव उत्कलीय वैष्णव लाइक दैट विष्णु ने जो भागवत धर्म similarly culturally another thing happened that regional art form madhya develop kala architecturally we see that there were three forms mainly came into existence Nagara type Dravida type and Besara type of architecture मंदिर temple building एवं नागर टाइप भीतर दीटा सब टाइप आसेला गोटे हला नागर टाइप आ गोटे हला कलिंग टाइप ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर जो कलिंग टाइप ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर आमे कोणार्क इत्यादि मंदिर मानकर देखिया पाऊ कोणार्क पुरी जगन्नाथ मंदिर लिंगराज टेम्पल so regional activity regional diversity regional identity became very much prominent during this period so the trend of polity during this period as we mark there is a strong feudal character number 2 central role of fiefs or estate that is a जमीदारी जहाँ कोई परिवा बा सामंतवादी मानकर जो जमी से मन पाइथिले राजंटू सामंत महासंत मानकर गुटे पावरफुल रोल रहिला एवं वीक सेंट्रल अथॉरिटी केंद्र शासन आस्ते आस्ते वीक हो गला a revenue system also we see that primarily revenue system relied upon land tax kaiki land tax बाद अन्य tax kind industry for example handicraft craft and art that suffered trade and commerce became very limited से revenue केवल land tax पर ही भरोसा करिकी रहिला so in this way you can see that the political landscape of early medieval period was marked by fragmentation, regional power, and a feudal system, and that were reliant on personal loyalty and land-based authority. Kings were holding ceremonial central position, but on the other hand, real power lied with the feudal lords who governed their territories with considerable independence, like Samanta, Mahasamanta, Mahabhaladhikrita, Mahamandaleshwara, Mahamandalidhikrita, like these were the feudal lords. So decentralized and hierarchical model fostered a dynamic, fragile system, very weak system it was, where local rulers balanced autonomy with allegiance to the king. So this feudal structure very much influenced India's political military and economic system during this early medieval period, ranging from 650 say to 1300 AD, setting the stage for a new age, that is later medieval developments. This era reflects a complex polycentric policy in which power was distributed across local and regional centers. So in this way, there was decentralization power, decentralization of authority, kingship became only ceremonial. A result, political power became not so strong as in the historical case with Mauryan Empire, rather it gradually weakened. So this is about the early medieval period transition. So next page of our discussion will be Unit 13. Unit 13, you read it as I told you. The problem of urban decline, agrarian expansion, land grants, growth of intermediaries. ମୁଁ ଏବେ ଆଲୋଚନା କଲା ଭିତରେ କିଛି କିଛି ବୁଝେଇ ଦେଇଛି କି ନାହିଁ? ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡ ଗ୍ରାଣ୍ଟସ୍ ବିଷୟରେ କହିଲି, ହଁ କି ନା?
ଆଜ୍ଞା।
Yes, sir.
ଆଚ୍ଛା, ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡ ଗ୍ରୋଥ ଅଫ୍ ଇଣ୍ଟରମିଡିଆରିଜ୍ କହିଲି, ରାଜାଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ ଚାଷୀଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ ଡାଇରେକ୍ଟ ସମ୍ପର୍କ ଥିଲା। ଚାଷୀ ରାଜାଙ୍କୁ କର ଦଉଥିଲା କେତେବେଳେ? ମୌର୍ଯ୍ୟ ଶାସନ କାଳରେ ବା ଗୁପ୍ତ ଶାସନ କାଳରେ। କିନ୍ତୁ ଏବେ କାହାକୁ କର ଦଉଛି? ସାମନ୍ତ ମାନଙ୍କୁ ଦଉଛି ବା ଗାଁ ଜମିଦାର ମାନଙ୍କୁ ଦଉଛି। So they were intermediaries. And problem of urban decline. Urban decline ବିଷୟରେ ମଧ୍ୟ କହିଲି, କେମିତି ପାଟଳିପୁତ୍ର ହାରିକା ସହର ଯୋଉ ଥିଲେ ଉଜ୍ଜୟିନୀ, କାଶୀ, ଏମାନେ ତାଙ୍କର ଲସ୍ଚର ଜେସ୍ଚର ଆଦି ହରେଇଲେ, କିନ୍ତୁ ସମ୍ପୂର୍ଣ୍ଣ ଭାବରେ ଲୋପ ପାଇଗଲେନି। ତା ଜାଗାରେ ନୂଆ ନୂଆ ସହର এই ସମୟରେ ବସିବାକୁ ଲାଗିଲେ। ସୋ ଆମେ କହିପାରିବା ଯେ ସମ୍ପୂର୍ଣ୍ଣ ଭାବରେ ଅର୍ବାନ ଡିକେ ହେଇଗଲା, ଅର୍ବାନ ଡିକ୍ଲାଇନ୍ ହେଇଗଲା। ଦେୟାର ୱାଜ ଏ ଡିକେ। ଡିକେ ମିନ୍ସ ଅବକ୍ଷୟ ହେଲା, କିନ୍ତୁ ବିଲୋପ ହେଇଗଲାନି। So in this way we can understand this 13 unit. ମୁଁ ଆଉ କାଲି 13 ୟୁନିଟ୍ କୁ ଆଲୋଚନା କରିବିନି। ଏଇଥିରେ ଅଛି ଇଣ୍ଡିଆନ୍ ଫ୍ୟୁଡାଲିଜିମ୍, ଅର୍ବାନ୍ ଡିକେ, ଫ୍ୟୁଡାଲିଜିମ୍ ଡିବେଟ୍, ଅଲ୍ଟରନେଟିଭ୍ସ, ଯୋଉଟା ମୁଁ ଅଲରେଡି ଆଲୋଚନା କରି ସାରିଲିଣି ପାଠ ଭିତରେ। ଦେନ୍ 14 proliferation and consolidation of caste and ଜାତି। କହିଲି ମୁଁ ଯେମିତି କାଷ୍ଟଙ୍କ ସଂଖ୍ୟା ବଢ଼ିଲା ଏବଂ କନସୋଲିଡେଟେଡ୍ କେମିତି ସେମାନେ ନିଜ କର୍ମ ଆଧାରରେ ଜାତି ମାନେ କନସୋଲିଡେଟେଡ୍ ହେବା ପାଇଁ ଲାଗିଲେ। ଯଦି ନ ବୁଝିପାରିବ ମୁଁ ଆଲୋଚନା କରିବି ତମ ସହିତ। ୟୁ କମ୍ ୱିଥ୍ ୟୋର ପ୍ରୋବ୍ଲେମ୍। ଦେନ୍ ରିଲିଜନ୍ ଇନ୍ ସୋସାଇଟି। এই জিওগ্রাফিজ অফ রিলিजन ମୁଁ ଏଣା କହିଲି ନା, ଗୌଡୀୟ ବ୍ରାହ୍ମଣ, ସାରସ୍ୱତ ବ୍ରାହ୍ମଣ, କନୌଜ ବ୍ରାହ୍ମଣ ଏ କଥା କହିଲି, ଏବଂ ସେଭଳି ଭାବରେ ଗୌଡୀୟ ବୈଷ୍ଣବ, ଉତ୍କଳୀୟ ବୈଷ୍ଣବ ଏ କଥା କହିଲି ନା ନାହିଁ। ସେଇଭଳିଆ ଏଇସବୁ ଜିନିଷଟାକୁ ମୁଁ ଟିକେ ଟିକେ କହିଦେଇଛି, ତମେ ପଢ଼। ଯଦି ଆଲୋଚନା କରିବା କଥା ଆମେ କାଲି ବି କରିପାରିବା। ମୁଁ ପଢ଼େଇବି, ଆଉ ଟିକେ କିଛି ଜିନିଷ ମୁଁ କହିବି। ନେକ୍ସଟ ହେଲା medieval society 1, historiography of the rural society। ଆମେ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଆସିବା ନେକ୍ସଟ ଫେଜକୁ, rural society। ଭିଲେଜ କମ୍ୟୁନିଟି କ'ଣ, ପଞ୍ଚମୁକଦମ କ'ଣ, ଆମେ ମିଡିଆଭାଲକୁ ପଳେଇ ଆସିବା ଆର୍ଲି ମିଡିଆଲ ପରେ। କିନ୍ତୁ କାଲି ଆମେ 13, 14 ବିଷୟରେ ଟିକେ ଆଲୋଚନା କରିବା। ତମେ ପଢ଼ିକି ଆସିଲେ ବହୁତ ଭଲ ହେବ, ଆଲୋଚନାରେ ଆମକୁ ସାହାଯ୍ୟ କରିବ। ଆଉ କିଛି ତମର ଯଦି ଡାଉଟ୍ ଅଛି, ପଚାରିବାର ଅଛି, 2 ମିନିଟ୍ ସମୟ ଦଉଛି, ପଚାର। କିଛି ନାହିଁ ତ? ଓକେ, so now let's stop the class. Okay, ঠিক আছে?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Thank
goodbye.
you, sir.
Thank
Thank you, sir. Namaskar. Thank you, sir.
Good evening to you all. Thank you.
Thank you.